Hey Virgo, it's Empress Rose here. Welcome to your reading. These are general readings. Take what works, leave what doesn't. Feel free to check your other major placements if you'd like. These are going to be oracle readings over on the YouTube side of things. And then if this resonates with you, you can join me over on the Vimeo side for a more traditional tarot spread that will continue the storyline that we develop here. All right, so we're going to just check out these oracle decks. Wow, is it? For Virgo. Okay. All right, that's plenty. All right. Oh my gosh, that's too much. Okay, well, this was the one that came out first. Expect powerful change, new moon eclipse. So we are in eclipse season. We have just experienced not a lunar eclipse, but a solar eclipse. We're just leaving that sort of grouping of eclipses. So lots of change, things can move very quickly, flip around very quickly. So expecting powerful change. Okay, powerful. And the eclipse energy, you know, unlike the new moon energy, which is like this steady, right? We also have a new moon here, new moon in Virgo, in you. So this is more of a steady, reliable, new situation where we don't quite see what's going on, but it's part of a cycle. It's part of cycles, and maybe not necessarily like regular interval cycles, but it is. The contrast with this, though, is that this is quick. Those, you know, it looks like a new moon, but it moves much faster. Much more quickly. So we're expecting some sort of quick turnaround, quick, powerful change, a time to give rather than take, new moon in Virgo. So this is talking about, well, right, a time to give rather than take. It's gifting season as well in much of the world. So, but this also talks about thinking about what you bring to a situation. It's like a situation where you don't quite see where anything's going, or you don't quite see the outcome, but it's really thinking about what you bring to a situation. What are you bringing? What's your energy? What's your vibe? What have you brought to the situation? So thinking about, it's like a situation that hasn't happened. It's like arriving at a party and setting your intentions, or arriving at your job and setting your intentions for the day. How do you want to feel today? What are you looking forward to with your job? Or, you know, what's the energy you're bringing into your day? So with the day hasn't unfolded, we have no idea what's going to happen. But to me, this has a lot of setting your intentions and being very intentional about the energy you bring to various situations that you're in, even though you don't even know what the situation is yet. It's like walking up the stairs to your job and just setting an intention for how you want to feel. What's the energy you want to bring today, even though you have no idea what's waiting for you on the other side of those doors and what kind of day is going to unfold. We're still at least setting the intention, not necessarily like, you know, no matter what happens, I'm going to be like this, but we're just setting the intention. It's a very powerful way to begin something, is at least know what you want and what attitude you want to bring to the thing. Share your voice. Not that you're a failure if you get out of that, or if that things go wrong and differently, but it's just a really powerful way to start any kind of sort of section of your life, any kind of period of time. Share your voice, come out of the cave, persecution, expression. So this to me talks about like having been silent for a time, having withdrawn from something, and now it's time to re-emerge back into that. As you do re-emerge, there will be a powerful change, right? Coming from the inside of this cave to the outside of the cave to the outside world, re-emergence. And that's, again, the theme with a new moon here too. And so setting your intentions as you sort of re-emerge and there's been like a period of receding, of recession, of quietness, and it's time to start expressing something, start talking about something, and really, or start being a little more open about something. you retreated in a way, but now it's time. It's saying that now it's time to whatever you've gained from this period of retreat and quietness. It's time, you can now bring that out into the world, start talking about something, start expressing yourself. This could be artistic expression, this could be conversations, but really setting your intention for how you want to express yourself, what it is you want to say, and what you're bringing out, right? Time to give rather than take. It's time to give your opinion, have your say. It's time to bring what you've developed in sort of this privacy out into the world. Deep replenishment, retreat, rest, be held. So this is talking to me about this replenishment that you've experienced back in this cave. This cave, to me, it's like retreat. It looks like you've retreated for some rest, some rejuvenation, and it's time to come out. I'm getting very Four of Swords from this, is like rejuvenation, rest, and retreat. And then now we're emerging into the world with sort of this renewed sense of what we want out of a situation. And then these all came in a chunk, so I'm going to try to read them all together. Okay, so in this retreat, we have a new moon in Scorpio, work through your fears. So this is about, working through your fears, facing them, asking them what they bring to you. Are you afraid, right? If we've retreated and we've rested and now it's time to emerge, if you've been inside or if you've been retreated for a while, you can have a little agoraphobia. I'm going to call it like emotional agoraphobia, of like starting to express your authentic self in the world. Something that you've developed sort of during a downtime or rest period, and wanting to express that. So you can have some fears. Maybe, before this sort of rest period, my necklace just like went. Okay, we fixed that. That was kind of funny. So working through those fears. So there may be some sort of, as you're starting to be more authentic or share something that you've developed sort of in some sort of private downtime, and as you bring that out, sharing your voice and starting to express, you may have some fears of exposure, fears of rejection, fears of just those natural fears about being authentic and what that means and how that's going to be received, right? So there's something that's sort of developed in private here, and then now we're starting to emerge in that. It's time to start emerging in that. We're rested, we're refreshed, we're replenished, and it's time to start sharing the voice. But even if in the past we've shared freely and openly, there may be something, a renewed fears of rejection, or of being misunderstood, or of being understood and then being rejected. We had a little conversation about that in the comments recently. So working through those fears that you may have with sharing your authentic self. We also have, let's go step out of your comfort zone, North Node. Again, as I love the North Node, South Node sort of work in astrology. I think it's it's pivotal, one of the most important aspects of learning about yourself and your path, I think. So stepping out of your comfort zone, definitely, like, this has become, this is so cool. This has become your comfort zone, this sort of cave, this receded energy of privacy, quietness, and privacy. This has become quite a comfort zone for you, and you're being asked to step out of that. Obviously, that's going to trigger fears. It's a new way of moving, new way of expressing yourself. It's very authentic. It has a lot of risks with it. So you may have a lot of fears, but this is step out of your comfort zone, North Node. Dealing with a situation in a different way. Maybe in the past you've dealt with something by receding, by, okay, I'm gonna just go be quiet over here, or shutting. Maybe in the past you kind of shut down about something. So this is asking you to approach a situation very differently. Obviously, this is going to trigger fears as you approach a situation very differently. You need to it is stepping out of your comfort zone. It is going to trigger some fears. So this sharing your voice, is stepping out of this cave, this place where you have found refuge. It's time to start expressing that. And this is going to be new for you, a new way of doing things. It is very scary, but honestly, like, working through your fears about a new way of doing things or a new way of expressing something, just sitting down and literally just looking at what exactly you're afraid of, what you think is, what's the potential outcomes, and what do you want, how do you envision beyond that fear? Like, what lies beyond those fears? Once you conquer those fears, what's the potential payoff for not staying in this sort of receded, quiet place where you needed to go for a while, for a time, to replenish yourself and retreat and rest. So you needed to do that, but now we may have some new fears or something like that about coming out of the cave, and maybe even coming out in other ways, working through those fears. And it's just amazing how when we bring those fears to light, they can be sort of vampires, sucking our energy, sucking our time, sucking our life away. And then once we bring the fears like just out into the light, just let's talk about what it is exactly I'm afraid of. And you can talk about that with yourself, with your journal, with a trusted friend or advisor like a therapist. Once those fears get out into the open, they dissolve like a vampire in the sunshine, or as we've come to imagine that looking, they can really just dissolve. So facing those fears about what this powerful change, what shifting the way you deal with something looks like, and those fears around that, just being really open with yourself about what they are, because they can just sit in the background and just be an energy, your own little energy vampire that you have in the back of your head, these little fears. Not little, they can feel really big. Obviously they're fears, so they feel much bigger than us. But they can just be these very subtle vampires in the back of our heads, sucking our life dry and preventing us from doing the things we want to do. So you're being asked to move very differently, to come out of the cave, to express more authentically whatever you've gotten whatever you have that maybe wasn't well received the first time you shared it, and so you retreated. You feeling better now, and so these fears may be well-founded. So, but working through them and figuring out exactly what they are, naming them, and thinking them through all the way. One way to deal with anxiety is to really let the whole scenario play out and understand that even in your worst case scenario, you're still going to be, I won't say, you're still be here. You'll still be you. You'll still be, I don't want to say fine, because a lot of these things that we're afraid of would fundamentally change us. So I don't think I'm helping here. Let's move on. The answers you need are coming, full moon in Gemini. So something that you haven't seen before, you will be able to see. And this Gemini often talks about communication. So someone may be communicating. There may be a comment. Sometimes this is about a conversation. This is about expression. And sometimes there can be like maybe an accidental comment that reveals a lot more than an indiscretion or something like that reveals more than you were expecting to see. But the answers you need are coming. But Gemini it's an air sign. It's all about communication. And so far we have this sort of communication. Something happened, maybe there was some hurt or something, there was a receding back from that, a pulling back of something, and now we're being asked to think about, to set intentions for communication, to re-engage with something, step out of your comfort zone, even though you're very worried about it. Whatever sort of you need to know can come out now. What wasn't seen before can be seen. And that's exactly like, and maybe it's your authentic self. What wasn't seen before can't be seen. Prosperity lies ahead, new moon in Taurus. So this is another earth energy. To me, this card just means like this can work out. It's possible for this to change some dynamics. And we're talking about a powerful change. That would be you going from not communicating about something to having sort of done the whatever retreat you needed to do, and then now being able to come forward, and this can work out in reality. Something will work out in reality here. Okay, let's go with these cards for. Ha! Okay, all right. Well, this one flipped over. I love it, but it's funny. I flipped over and then went back into the deck. Which is just exactly what we're talking about. Can you hear me? Communication issues. She's exhausted. She's got like, there's growth here. There's a lot of growth under the surface. Maybe she hasn't been able to communicate about all of this growth. The spiral to me and the snail is about repeated cycles, and growing from each cycle. And then she wants to communicate that. But is anybody listening? Can anybody hear me? Can anybody hear me, right? So maybe not if you're still in this cave, but this is all talking about some sort of communication that maybe you needed to retreat from, and now it's saying like this is, it's okay to step out, it's okay to be more authentic, to express yourself authentically. Yes, there's a lot of fear about this. Set your intentions. What you need to know, you will be learning, and they're right. So these two seem to me to be a bit of the outcome of what we're going to be experiencing with more expression. Is the answer, you'll get answers, and things can work out in reality. So can you hear me? For communication frustrations, not sure you're being understood. Is it even worth it to continue trying? It looks like she's exhausted. She's been, blowing on her little horn, trying to communicate. And just nobody's heard. She doesn't feel heard. This person does not feel heard, does not feel understood. And they're really questioning whether there's a point to continuing on with an attempted communication. They just feel like they're communicating out into the void, right? And so this horn was meant to like communicate through the fog. Her own little fog horn here. There's a lot of lack of clarity, trying to be clear, wanting to be clear. And not getting any response. There's no, you're saying Marco and nobody's saying Polo. So did everybody just leave the pool? What's going on? I don't understand. So that's a little bit of what's going on, is like this communication, and just in general, it's just an exhausting communication issue that hasn't worked out. You haven't heard a response yet, but here we have the answers you need are coming. So you might just hear the echo. No, I don't think that's what we're hearing. We're not just hearing an echo. There's going to be a response, I feel like. Maybe you're not feeling very hopeful about the situation. Again, this is like checking your intentions, making sure that you're coming into this communication with knowing what you want. And so I think we are going to be hearing back. That's what the answers seem to be saying. We are going to be hearing back, but it's been a long time and it's very exhausting. Rose garden. So this is about having good boundaries, though. Just because you want to communicate with something, this is protecting yourself still. And maybe that's a little bit about working through your fears. I think you got a similar message last time, is that there may be fears, and maybe what you need is some sort of method to protect yourself, right? So this, in the rose garden, she's bringing forward this beautiful rose, but literally it smells so good. Everybody wants to take a bite out of it. But in order to be able to bring what she needs to bring into the world, she needs to be protective. So maybe protective of her time, protective of her energy, and maybe nobody's actually going to chomp down this flower. But this having changed and transformed and grown, she understands that there's still a sense of needing to protect herself and needing to dealing with fears in a way by preparing for the possible worst possible outcome. I mean, that doesn't release you from setting the intentions, but just having this boundary here. The rose garden, the roses are so beautiful. And there's a lot of value here, and just understanding that I feel like there's like a sense of the boundaries shifting and changing. There's transformation, and maybe the boundaries that worked in the past aren't going to work anymore for this situation. And maybe this is getting past somebody's, I don't want to say boundaries, because we don't want to be like sneaking around people's boundaries and like, well, you said I couldn't come over tonight, so I thought morning would be fine, you know, without asking or whatever. So, but there's a sense of I just want to say boundaries transforming, changing. Yes, there have been, and they worked for some sort of situation, but they need to shift for the new situation. As you, right, so this being back in the cave, that was you sort of creating this, or receding and being kind of enveloped by boundary here. But now if we're stepping out of our comfort zone, we're working through these fears, we're trying to communicate, right? So somehow this boundary prevented all communication, or most communication. And now you're ready to communicate. But now that you're opening up, you're emerging from sort of a cocoon, a communication cocoon. As you enter out into the, as you begin expressing and as you leave this comfort zone, you're going to want different boundaries, right? So this is a boundary where it's not just like, some people have really bad porous boundaries and they need better boundaries, stronger boundaries. But you having been in this cave, it's like this whole mountain boundary around you. And so some people need better boundaries, as in they need to just not be shutting everybody out. Like that's great to have boundaries, but some people have boundaries that are too big and actually keep them isolated. So that's what I'm seeing here, is that there's like this huge, and you needed to recede and care for yourself. But as you're stepping out of this comfort zone, this sort of fortress boundary, you need to create another boundary, but one that allows for life and for flow as well, for give and take, right? And for the changing dynamic. So your boundaries kind of need, so you want something different, and the old type of boundary, your fortress type boundary, isn't going to work for this. So it doesn't mean don't have any boundaries. It just means like have kind of more specific ones, or more appropriate to what you want. Like you want someone to come into the garden, but you still don't want them to pick all the flowers. So that's more what I'm seeing here with this rose garden. Like there's an invitation to come into the garden, or to have someone come through the boundaries. But just because they're in there doesn't mean they get to pick everything they want. Okay, so Virgo, this was a little bit long, but if you want to continue the storyline over on Vimeo, let's go do that. If not, I'll see you guys in a while. Happy holidays.